Wow, there's a lot going on in this world, isn't there? In fact, I was here a year ago. The NTRA had a meeting about this time of year, and we had a room full of people from these aftercare organizations all brainstorming about how to improve what they do. I come at this from a different direction. How does this work? There we go. Okay. And so I'm going to just talk personally for a minute, because there are thousands of people like me, and I'm talking to a group of people in the racing industry, and every part of the horse world is isolated. We all think we're the best, and we think that the other guys don't know what they're doing, and I think that's wrong. I grew up at a time when thoroughbreds were the ultimate sport horse. In the hunt club, fox hunting, I was a kid on my little pony, just looking at these steeplechase horses that people were bringing out in the hunt field, and that's what I wanted to get my hands on. That's what I always loved. And people my age, the baby boomers, are like that. We grew up with thoroughbreds as the ultimate sport horse. I mean, Rodney Jenkins, you know, Idle Dice, Rodney you saw as one of the judges in the horse show, now a racehorse trainer. Of course, that horse was from Charlestown, you know, best show jumper of all time. So sport horses were thoroughbreds. That was it. The warm bloods came in, the Irish sport horses, a lot of other breeds, and all of them have marketing programs. All of them have breed associations, and they market those horses for sport and recreation. And thoroughbreds, of course, are mostly marketed for racing, because that's what most of them are bred to do. So I would like to get the world back to where it was, when you could sell a horse off the track for $5,000 at least, which meant that you might as well sell them rather than run them in that last claiming race. So we created an organization, got a 501c3, and the mission of the organization is strictly to increase demand for the horses in the sport and recreation marketplace. Why? Everybody who buys a horse has choices. Trainers are telling people what they should buy, trainers in the sport horse world. All the breeds have marketing programs. There's more supply than demand right now, partly because the demand isn't high of X-race horses. And the farms, individuals, and organizations that train and place these horses don't have marketing departments of their own, for the most part. And I say farms, individuals, and organizations because there are organizations. New Vocations is the biggest, and they're probably, in a lot of ways, they're the best. They're very professional at what they do. Placing 400 horses in a year is pretty phenomenal. There are not horse dealers who do that many horses. But there are a lot of professionals, and they've been doing this for decades, who buy and train horses. And there are also a lot of individuals who, almost as a hobby, will always have one or two horses off the track that they play with for 6 months, a year, 2 years, and then they train, and then they sell them, and then they go buy their next horse. So we want to encourage that, because we think that that's a huge part of the solution, and it's a huge part historically of how the horses have been moved on after racing. Who should deliver this message? Obviously, when people in racing say you should have a thoroughbred, it's not going to necessarily convince that mom that her 13-year-old kid should have a thoroughbred. But if trainers and leaders in the sport horse world are telling their clients that thoroughbreds off the track are a good option, they're going to buy that. And of course, the thoroughbreds horses themselves do it. This is a picture from the Thoroughbred show. I was lucky enough to be, the one at Pimlico that you saw the video about, I was lucky enough to be one of the judges, and I got to judge the hat classes, which included the lead line class and the 12 and under walk class, and that was challenging, but it was everything you saw in that movie, a great event. And again, the horses were marketing themselves there for anybody who was there. Not enough people, of course. So this organization that we've created is a board of directors of people that are both from racing and non-racing, who, of course, grew up with thoroughbreds and love them. It's the people who have followed us online, and I'll talk about what our website does and why we have a lot of people who followed us. The people who have attended our events. This was a picture from the Trainer Challenge that we did back in January and February of this year. This was from the Pennsylvania Horse World Expo. That's one side of the 3 sides of the arena that were packed to the gills to watch this thing. And of course, the contributors that help fund some of it. So the website, first of all, when we decided to create an organization, we thought, well, we really need to, if we're going to increase demand and serve not just the nonprofit organizations, but also the whole sport horse world, first thing we did was put out an email to create a trainer directory of just professionals who love to train ex-racehorses, so that people could find those folks. And so We right now have 200 trainers listed. You go in and you can go to the state. There's a map. You click on any of these, and there's everything you want to know about their rates, their experience, their facility. So people can use that, whether they're sending a horse to training after a race. The racing owners do this sometimes, or whether it's somebody who just got a horse off the track or adopted one from New Vocations, and they know they need help. We also have a Sources for Horses, which is, we think we have most of the nonprofit placement organizations, as well as a lot of farms that sell a lot of ex-race horses. Again, you can go to the map and click on it. It includes all the racetracks as well, so people can call and try to get in and try to make connections. And then we have an online classifieds that includes videos. It's free, pictures, maps, the whole bit, so that people can list their horses if they don't have a way. Not everybody has a website, and it's a place for people to go who are looking for a horse that raced at any level of training. And then this is the thing that I'm most excited about, but it's the hardest thing to get people to do. It's called the Bloodline Brag. It's like a Wikipedia for ex-racehorses. So everybody who owns or has owned an ex-racehorse that they love and they want to brag about, they can put them in here, and they put them in by pedigree, and we ask them about the horse's characteristics, not racing characteristics, but its movement, its jumping ability, its competition record after it raced, so that then you can go sort by pedigree. You can look at the offspring of a stallion, and you can see what his offspring are doing in the sport and recreation world. So it's going to be a great research tool to the extent that thousands and thousands of horses get put in. Right now, there's only 652, and I have to admit I haven't even put my horses in yet because it takes a few minutes, and none of us have time. We're talking to some tax store dealers about a thing where you get credits to buy on their websites if you put your horse in, and there's interest there. So hopefully that'll be marketed bigger to expand that. And then the meat of what we're known for is educational clinics and these expos. And let me just tell you quick about the way this organization was born is that I used to do, and I still do, teach in my sport of 3-day eventing clinics and go to horse expos and sort of teach in front of a group, which I kind of think is fun sometimes if you can entertain them and educate them at the same time. So we thought, well, you know, there seems to be a lot of interest in education about training horses off the track. So we put out some emails. We just did some online marketing, not much. We didn't spend any money, and put on this 4-hour symposium in Maryland, and 350 people showed up at that. They each paid $25 to come. They spent 4 hours sitting there watching horses at different levels of training, came from 10 states. And, you know, it was amazing to me that people would come to something like that. Usually nobody shows up. So we've continued to do horse expos, clinics and things. This is from our booth from one of the expos. That's my twin boy riding the Equicizer, who we call Idle Dice. And then what we did was a trainer challenge this January and February. And this was followed by thousands and thousands of people online because we selected 4 horses and 3 trainers. One horse was to be an alternate in case one got hurt or didn't make it for some reason. The owners paid the trainers to train the horses for 5 weeks only. And the horses, some of them had had a break since racing, some of them had not had much of a break, but none of them had had any post-race training. We brought the 4 horses into the Maryland Horse Expo in January, second weekend of January, and stuck them in this 60 by 120 arena with hundreds and hundreds of people, you know, jammed around the edges of it. And none of the trainers had been on the horses, and none of the horses had really been ridden much recently. And everybody said we were nuts, but the horses were great, and people were shocked, amazed that you could get on an ex-racehorse with no training and walk, trot, and canter both directions. They all went on the correct lead, too. And so that was shocking to people. That was very educational. And this is an audience at these horse expos that it's not the people who already know. It's the public. You know, people come, they get thousands and thousands of people at these things. It's the people who are entry-level horse people with their kids who are trying to figure out what direction in the horse world they want to go. Wow, they saw Thoroughbreds right off the track doing great stuff. 5 weeks later, they came back to the Pennsylvania Expo. And in the meantime, the trainers did video blogs so people could watch the training process. And one of the trainers turned them into educational videos, and he did, professional production of his videos, and one of them was very funny about the way she did it. One of them had little tags under the videos from the voice of the horse. So people really got into watching. We had 60,000 YouTube views during that 5 weeks, and we let people vote for their favorite trainer. And then they came to the expo at Pennsylvania, and we had judges. We had, big-name people like Jimmy Wofford and Alex Brown and other judge I can't remember right now. But anyway, so there was a winner, and Eric Dirks from North Carolina with this Brazilian wedding up in the upper left. This is a picture at the bottom of the trainers right after they had selected their horses. So it was a huge success. Got lots and lots of press. Hopefully some of you heard about it. A few months later, then we joined up with New Vocations here during the weekend of Rolex and did an event that was very successful. Chris McCarron was there, and there he is over there. He got on one of the horses, and this has happened twice to us, where really good exercise riders and jockeys get on the horses in the racing tack, and they start riding around the ring, and we show people, we talk to them about balancing over your feet, keeping your hands down, all the stuff that they teach at their jockey school here, and the horses go so well. Chris had this horse, walk, trot, canter across the diagonal, flying change. Looked like he was doing dressage. So we think we should create a new sport called jockey dressage. And maybe we'll get together with the jockey school over here and have little competitions. But that's a major part of the education. And that's part of the mission of this organization, is to educate people about the horsemanship in the racing industry. And there's a lot that sport horse people can learn about riding a horse with balance over their feet in a tiny little saddle with their hands down, as opposed to sitting back on them and pulling all the time. We had Bruce Davidson there too, and it was a great event. So what's next for us? There are actually some brochures and flyers out on the table. The next event that we're doing is that flyer at the right there, a week from Saturday. It's coming up quick, which is, there's a group of people at Fair Hill Training Center who are putting on a horse show on the Sunday at Fair Hill across the road from the training center. So we're putting on a full day of education and a marketplace of horses the day before. We're going to start out at the clock tower at 8:30 watching horses gallop. Then we're going to do barn tours. We're going to do the therapy center, and then come across the road. And we've put out notice to folks, both the rescue organizations, the nonprofits, and the general, horse training public. Bring your horse. We'll do showcase of horses available for sale or adoption. It's like an old Irish horse market, bringing buyers and sellers together. So that'll go on for a couple hours in the middle of the day. We have some educational stuff after that, and then we finish up at the vet clinic with a vet from New Bolton and Kathy Anderson from the Fair Hill Vet Clinic, doing a presentation on common soundness issues for horses off the track. So we're excited about that, and we believe that by combining these marketplaces with the educational stuff, it creates a sense of urgency and makes it all very real for people and hopefully places horses. And then, the Retired Racehorse Challenge, I'll finish with that because I think we're running out of time. We have to do a sequel to the Trainer Challenge, but we don't think that the same thing would fly twice. We were lucky, it really worked out really well. So this time it's going to be a horse challenge, and we have 4 mid-Atlantic farms. We've got 3 lined up so far, we think, are each going to present a horse, and they'll be presented as a team. So it'll be good marketing for the farms, horses that they bred and race that they think make good sport horses. And we'll put them through a training process, kind of like the 100-day stallion test the warm blood people do. They'll all be at one facility. They'll all be trained. You'll be able to watch it online. And then they'll go to these horse expos and show themselves off and compete. So it's all marketing. It's all, to convince the public. I think I've covered all of this. But, our goal is yes, it's to place horses, but it's also the resurgence in the popularity of thoroughbreds, getting them back to where they were. There was a reduction of the percentage of horses registered in the U.S. Equestrian Federation databases. These are show horses that compete. It was about 40% in the 1980s, and it's now 10%. And that's because other breeds have come in and taken their place. We've got work to do to get back to that. If you were on one of the thoroughbreds, higher prices for sound horses when they retire from racing. Obvious benefits to that, right? Less incentive to run them cheap, more incentive to retire them sound. Education, better horsemanship on all sides of the horse world. More racing fans. You know, we horse people outside of racing are the low-hanging fruit for racing. Let's bring these folks back into racing as fans, and more racing owners, because the more that they feel that there are alternatives for their horses, this has been said all week, all day, I think, that the more that owners feel like there's something that's going to happen to their horse afterwards, the more comfortable people are owning racehorses. And I know lots of people in the sport horse world don't want to own racehorses for that reason, you know. That was the last slide. I think we're running out of time, aren't we? But I really appreciate the Jockey Club doing this. I think we've got the great panel that's got sort of all the aspects of this aftercare issue, and hopefully we're going to make progress.
I would just like to thank the speakers again for coming and presenting today, and I hope everyone's gotten a little bit new information about what's going on in aftercare. I think we have time for a couple of questions if anybody has any.
I just wanted to say a word of caution about realistic expectations, and also remind you to do the most meticulous job you can of keeping up with these wonderful results. They're not all good, but people are going to want to make donations based on what they see are your results. I had a long experience as chairman of the Foundation for Biomedical Research, and as such got a real intimate relationship with small animal rescue operations, whether you're talking about the Pound or Humane Society or whatever. And the best of those have nearly a 50% euthanasia thing. And somebody needs to put that in the equation. That's the best of that with animals that don't have to perform, don't carry great body weight, and are easy to deal with. I do want to say simply, you just have to be careful about that, because you might raise unrealistic expectations. The other thing I wanted to say is there are a number of things. The Humane Society for different geographic groups are very, very worthwhile. The Humane Society of Kentucky, for Lexington, Louisville, whatever. The Humane Society of the United States is something you need to be very careful about. They spend less than 1% of their massive annual income on animal care of any kind. They're fundamentally a lobbying organization. They're not into what you're into. And we were taken in by that, and I want to caution you about it. Humane Society of the United States is an entity you want to be careful about. The respective local groups who get by without all that funding and whatnot on pure donations are wonderfully helpful things. But you need to differentiate the two. And I urge you again to be realistic about your expectations. This is a tough game, and the small animal thing, I think, comes home easier for many people. It's a wonderful presentation. I enjoyed it, and thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Polk. So I want to thank this panel and thank all the other presenters. What happens now is that we take this information, we go back, and Kristen and Jamie Hayden and Kathy and Matt Uliano and I will work with the various committee heads, and we will continue forward. We'll take what we've learned and organize our strategy and push forward for continuing the process of trying to meet our goals. I think the fact that I was glad to hear people talking about the trainer's guide today, but we still have less than half the states using that. So we've got a lot of work to do to continue goals we set some time ago. Thank you very much for coming, and have a great day.